she described me as taking the place of her husband. It stung. It really stung. And it made me realize right then, I'm not doing this anymore. Around the time I happened to meet my husband, married my husband, and he's a Catholic, cradle Catholic, and had a reversion in large part because I was just peppering him with questions. I didn't know he was Catholic. And when I met him, I met him, he saw that I was looking up RCIA programs. I'm like, are you Catholic? And so I started peppering him. And so we started dating, and I talked to him, and we got married. And so very quickly I was able to recognize how I wanted this in my own life. But I was finishing my military residency. I was going to get a new military assignment. And so I just made a deal with myself, like, okay, Lord, I know that you want me to stop prescribing. And the reason I knew that he wanted me to stop prescribing was because a doctor that I was working with at the time, when I came into the church, handed me Humana Vitae. And he said, this is the reason I stopped doing IVF. And I was like, whoa. I mean, that was his career, and he stopped doing it. And I was so busy. I couldn't take the time to read it at the time. I knew I would, I saved it, but I was, for whatever reason, I didn't read it. And so I just kept going. But what I had convinced myself was, when I leave this military base and I go to a new one, I'll start fresh then. Like, why go back? I've only got a year left, or less. I'm like, why am I going to just make this transition when I am just going to do it seamlessly in a year? Well, I ended up staying on at the place I was still working. And so for another 3-year assignment. And I was grateful to do that. My husband was living in Cincinnati, so was happy to stay on in Dayton. But I then struggled with okay, now what am I going to do? And so I just kept going. I just kept going the way that I was. And I was formed. I was an all-in Catholic, all in. So I stopped going to confession because I knew I wasn't making a good confession. The Lord had asked me to stop. And I'm like, not now. I don't want to. And I'm not going to come to confession because I'm honestly not doing it thoroughly. And I'm not asking you to come heal this part of my life. And I felt wildly duplicitous. I just cannot describe how terribly torn I was to no longer go to confession, hungering for it, but lacked the moral courage, to do it. And I've never shared this story. Really, I've never shared this story. But one day, I was doing intrauterine insemination. That's how in I was. I was doing an intrauterine insemination for a couple when I was on active duty. And after we were done, she laid there for 10 minutes after I put the sperm in and did all this stuff. And she looked over at me and just very, funny. She was trying to be funny. She looked over at me and she goes, I guess I'm going to start calling you my baby daddy now. And it just seemed very odd to me. I just felt like she meant that to be funny. We're just wasting time. But I just took that so personally. I don't know. I didn't feel like she was insulting me, but it just really hurt me that she described me as taking the place of her husband. And it stung. It really stung. And it made me realize right then, very hard, I was about to leave the military and I'm not doing this anymore. And I don't mean not doing what I was doing. I mean, I'm not doing medicine anymore. Wow. I can't do it. If I'm not able to walk away from something that is making me feel so divided, a house divided against itself can't stand. And I just was desperate. I'm like, I'm not doing it anymore. So I was willing to leave medicine behind. Around that time, I was pregnant with my third baby. My husband was finishing his residency and was going on to be a physician. And we decided where we were going to go. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to be home with my baby for, a year, and I'll see, but I'm going to leave it behind. And in that year, God's providence, I had people reach out to me from our local diocese asking me, had I ever heard of natural family planning? Would I ever consider training in it? They were going to give me a grant to go. And I thought, and around the time I started meeting Catholics, we were finally in a real parish. I had real friendships with other Catholics, and they would ask me, can you read my NFP chart? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I started opening up those doors and learning because women asked me. Fundamentally, I love women. I do. That's my job. I want to care for them. And when I saw this need, can you help me? Can you help my husband? Can you help us? I wanted to. That's the altruism, of medicine. And it was them asking me that I was able to give my yes. And when I gave my yes to those patients and I gave my yes back to God, he opened up all these doors. And I had never seen the need of, you can practice in a way that you didn't know and you hadn't been exposed to. And you may not have 1 million people beating down your door, but those who do are asking for you to care for them in this vacuum, this horrible void of how can you care for me as a woman in a way that upholds the dignity of the human person, that views my marriage and our fertility as a couple as good and holy and something to be, treated reverentially. And it wasn't until I just said, Lord, I'll leave it all behind for you, that he was like, that's all I needed you to say. And there it was, right? There it was. And here I am.